Are the Caldwell E-Max Shadows Pro better than the original Shadows? Let's find out right now. So this is the E-Max Shadows Pro from my friends over at Caldwell. And as you can see, they kept up with the traditional hard case. But the one thing I really like about the case is they got away from the mini USB and went to a USB-C connector. Now with these cases plugged in, you can see that they changed the charging, whereas you had the two dots on the Shadows. With the Shadows Pro, you now have a graph, so that way you can see what the case charge really is. Instead of trying to figure out what these two dots are, like when one's solid and one's blinking, and it was just kind of a nightmare. Now with a graph, it's just so much easier to look at and go, that case is fully charged or half charged, or whatever the status of it is. Now if we flip the cases open, we still get, the charge indicators on these, but if you also see, we have another graph on the inside of the case of the Pros. That tells you what the charge of that individual earbud is. Now, unlike the Shadows where the left one is actually on the right, so you grab it like this, put it in your ear, and the right one being on the left, so you grab it like that and put it in your ear, they changed that around in the Shadows Pro. Now, the right is on the right and the left is on the left. The one thing about this though, is you can see how easy I can pick up the original Shadows. These Shadows Pros, they're a little bit harder to kind of grab onto. I got big hands, and as you can see, I kind of have to twist them around to grab them. I just can't grab them like this. If you have small fingers, you can probably get in there like that a little easier. I find that's a little harder, but that's a trade-off with having a smaller case, because you can see this is physically a smaller case by all means. Now, just like the Shadows, the Shadow Pros come with the exact same ear tips. So that way you can customize this. If you're used to the ear tips on the Shadows, Shadow Pros are going to work just the same way. As you can see here, we have all the different tips. I'm not going to go through all the tips. I have the ones on. I use the largest foam tips in there, and they work for me. We also get a USB-C charging cable. And you have this cable here. Now this cable is not really a cable as much as it is to tether the two together. I've worked with the tether and without this tether, and originally I liked the tether. Now I'm starting to get used to them without the tether, and quite frankly I'm starting to like the one without the tether. You have on the underside of the earbud here these two holes. And the way that works is you put it in one, it'll go into one and then come out the other, and then you just kind of take the other side and go through, and it's connected. But like I said, I'm not running them tethered. And if you notice on the case here, there's these two little cutouts. That's for the tether. So that way when you close the lid, the tether will actually come outside the case and not interfere with the lid. Now, one of the things I originally complained about on the original Shadows was sound. If you're listening to music, it's not the greatest sound in the world. I mean, they're really kind of sound like a cheap dollar store earbud. Now, when they came out with the power cords, they did great with the sound on the power cords. And that followed through on the E-Max Shadows Pros. So these do have a really good sound to them. One of the other complaints I had with the original Shadows was the touch on this. Now I like the touch, but sometimes it would just, screw up. I just didn't understand what you were doing. And that was kind of annoying. They did away with that on the Shadows Pro. On this right earbud, there's only a single click. And on the left, there's a double click. There's an up and down. So this is your multi-function button. and this is your volume. Now, as much as I like getting rid of that touch sensitivity, I really wish they just would have, well, fixed that instead of giving me 3 buttons. Because one of the problems I have is I run my shadows in my EDC. And if I want to run just one earbud, I can do that with the Shadows. And the Shadows Pros, because they have dedicated buttons depending on which one you have, you can't really do that. So with the Shadows, I can shut down one of these earbuds just by holding onto the touch panel. I'm fine with the Shadows Pros as long as it's the right earbud. I can use this to power on, power off, and change functions of the earbuds. The problem is what if I want to run the left one? Well, all you have is volume buttons. There's no power button. This powers on by taking it out of the case. So if I want to run for EDC and for some reason I want to run just the left one well, let's face it, if you're a left-handed shooter, you're going to want to run the left one instead of the right one if you're only going to run one earbud. You can't do that. Once it's up, that's all you have. Now, the other thing is that if I'm running the right one, which I would do, that's great because I have the multifunction button where I can turn it on, turn it off, turn on the ambient sound and all that stuff. But I can't control the volume unless I actually have my phone. And if I'm running ambient noise, I can't change the volume of it, well, without the left one. So there's some minor things that should have been put into the final package. I wish they would have given us maybe like a 3-way button here where it's a multi-function button plus volume on either one of the earbuds. Now, as for pairing, the Shadow Pros pair just the same as the Shadows. When you first get them, you open up the case, pick them up, they go immediately into pairing mode. When you do, you just click on the device and they will pair up. Now, I had problems with switching devices when I got the original Shadows. I had originally had a problem with the Shadows when I was switching from device to device. You can pair them with multiple devices. The problem I had was there was a glitch in my phone. It was fixed in an update, and now it will actually turn off and turn on when I go into Bluetooth and disconnect the earbuds. Thing I like about the Shadow Pros, they work the exact same way. So if you're used to the way the Shadows change from device to device, Shadow Pros do the exact same thing. Now these are already paired up, and I didn't feel like doing a factory reset just to show you the pairing because, well, it's kind of boring. It's a Bluetooth pairing. You should know how to do that by now. If not, the instructions walk you right through pairing, and it's not hard at all. So I have my Samsung S10 on the table here. Now, as you can see, I just open up and I'm all charged and ready to go. Second I pick one of my earbuds up, it'll start going through the connection process and it's connected. Now when I pick up the left one will connect in as well. So now I have the Shadows Pros in my ears. And if you can see, if I tap once, I can pause. Tap again, it starts playing. Over on my left ear, there's my volume. As I'm clicking up, volume goes up. Same thing with down. So now if I click once, it pauses the music and I get a beep in both ears. Now if I want to turn ambient noise on, I double tap, I get 2 beeps and ambient noise comes on. Now, unlike the Shadows, the Shadow Pros actually can amplify all that ambient noise. I can control that to add all the way up where I'm actually amplifying or down so it's not so loud. And if I click one more time, my music will start playing. Now, just like the Shadows, when you have ambient noise on, it's really hard to hear the music. Now, I know that if I click once, it pauses music. It also starts to play. 2 turns on my ambient noise, but 3 kicks in any voice assistant that you may have on your phone. Now, I don't like voice assistants, so you can see on my phone, I don't have Bixby set up. Now, on the left earbud, we know we have the volume up and down, just like we talked about before. But what if I want to switch back and forth in music? It's real simple. Just hold down the up button, and it will skip forward to your next song. Now, since I'm listening on Pandora, I can't go back, but if you click the down button and hold it down, you would go back if you're playing in just a regular music player. Now, the one thing I didn't talk about was the case they come in. Well, it's almost the exact same case as the power cords and very similar to that of the Shadows. But the big difference is they gave you a vinyl patch. So if you want to pull the Caldwell patch off, put this on your bag or whatever, or, well, you want to put something else on your case instead of the Caldwell patch, you can do that too. Did Caldwell knock it out of the park with the E-Max Shadows Pro? No. They got close. I mean, they got definitely a triple out of this thing, but it's not a home run. They fixed a lot of the annoyances with the Shadows, but they introduced a couple of new annoyances. I don't like that I can't use my earbuds one at a time. I really do use my Shadows that way when I'm doing my EDC. That way I'm just talking on a call and I can change the volume and all that neat stuff, or go into ambient noise and control that, or just have an earbud. The Shadows Pros take that away from me. So for my EDC, I'm still going to use my Shadows, but I'm going to tell you, for my range time, it's definitely the Shadows Pros. The sound quality is just amazing out of them. It's hard to believe they're getting that much sound out of those little earbuds. I love the charging indicator that they gave us on the case. That is definitely a bonus. That should have been on the Shadows when they were launched, but they definitely fixed them in the Shadows Pros. Now, the other thing I do find on these things is when I'm wearing them for long term, I think the Shadows are a little more comfortable than the Shadows Pros. You're talking about a much bigger case on this earbud. There we go. And how it's square here, sometimes this corner rubs on the inside of my ear. It doesn't do it all the time, just sometimes, and that does get a little annoying over long term. I don't feel it over short term, but over long term. But the one thing I think is really missing about this, and I complained about this in the Shadows, QI charging. Being able to put this on a contactless charger and charge them. I really wish they had got that into that case. The QI charging, being able to use each earbud independently, and being able to get into that case, those are the things that are keeping this from being a home run. So that's my thoughts on the E-Max Shadows Pro. What do you think about them? Let's hear you in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Hope you're staying safe out there, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.